Welcome to our channel where we break down cases and concerns that relate to sports law, governance and regulation. What is sports law? Sports law is best described as how different areas of law apply to a sporting context. It has been best known to incorporate acts and case law from various areas of law, including but not limited to contract law relating to a sports person's sponsors or endorsement deals, employment law as it relates to an athlete's clubs or federation contracts that they might have, EU law in relation to the impact of freedom of movement on transfers, for example, and criminal law as it concerns doping or other on-field altercations. Now, unlike areas such as conveyancing, criminal law, family law, what we call sort of traditional areas of law, the specialism of sports law cannot necessarily be described as an individual entity that you can train in. Rather, to specialize or work in sports law and be qualified in the subject, you would need to have a working knowledge of various legal specialties and apply those to the sporting context. Many years ago, courts began to accept that sport in any form cannot continue to exist without checks or regulation. And so thus, sports governing bodies are in place. Sports governing bodies are organizations that are in place to govern and administer a sport on either a national basis or an international basis. A sports governing body would be expected to deliver various functions within its area of jurisdiction, including controlling and regulating the environment of its sport, administering the practice and participation of its sport, developing its sport, promoting its sport, and of course, managing the rules and regulations of its sports, including anti-doping, child protection, and equality. Some national sports governing bodies that you might have come across are the Football Association, England Netball and England Boxing, and on the international stage, some very renowned sports governing bodies are the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, and FIFA, which manages football at the world level, of course. Now, perhaps the most unique thing about sports law, and some would say its specificity, is that sports governing bodies are autonomous, which means that they have full control over their rules and regulations and how their concerns and cases are managed at the first instance. Whereas most other areas of law are resolved under English and Welsh law, this is often not the case in sport. For the most part, a sports law case will follow the policies and procedures as set out by the sports governing body for that sport, and once exhausted, the highest appellate body is the Court of Arbitration for Sport, who make decisions on cases using their own principles mixed with Swiss law. So this is a big difference to how other areas of law are resolved under English and Welsh law. So let's take a look at some landmark cases that have helped to shape sports law over the years. First, you have the Bosman case. In 1990, Jean-Marc Bosman, a Belgian footballer, declined to renew his contract with RC Liège and was placed on the transfer list. However, under the rules applied by the clubs and agreed by the governing bodies at national and European level at the time, so being UEFA, Liège, his club, demanded a transfer fee from any destination club that were pursuing him. This, in addition to the rules that impose limits on a number of foreign players that a club could have, basically made it impossible for Bosman to find alternative employment, either in Belgium or abroad, and he actually wished to play in France. The case was referred to the European Court of Justice, which ruled in December 1995 that transfer fees were incompatible with the right of free movement of persons. The ruling meant that clubs could no longer block a move or demand a transfer fee from a player or from a destination club if the player left at the end of their contracts. Number 2, Casta Semenya. On 30th of April 2019, the Court of Arbitration for Sport dismissed Casta Semenya's case against World Athletics, where she challenged that their DSD regulations were invalid. Now, in short, the DSD regulations dictated that Caster Semenya would have to take medication to significantly reduce her testosterone if she wanted to run internationally at events between 400 meters and a mile. The panel that were hearing the case at the Court of Arbitration for Sport found that the DSD regulations were discriminatory, but that on the basis of the evidence submitted by the parties, such discrimination was necessary, reasonable, and proportionate in order to achieve the legitimate objective of ensuring fair competition in female athletics and in certain events, and protecting the protected class of female athletes in those events. This further highlights the specificity of sport, where you can say that some form of discrimination in sport is actually permitted, where in other areas of law it would not be. And lastly, we have the Smolden case, where the referee was liable. Now, in the case of Smolden, the referee in a game of rugby was found to be liable when the scrum collapsed dangerously and the player was injured. The scrum had collapsed many times during the game, but the referee hadn't identified any foul play. This was found to be a neglect of his duty of care, though it was also stated during the case that a referee was bound to have some oversights during a fast-moving game. And in this case, the referee was actually sued in civil court. Now, there are many other seminal cases that have helped to shape sports law over the years, but those three examples just show how different areas of law can interact with sports, including employment law and EU law, human rights law, and also civil law. And so, in summary, sports law is the collection of many different types of law that impact the sports industry. It might involve issues that relate to professional or Olympic athletes at the elite level, but it can also relate to laws and rules that govern youth and amateur sports. And so if you have liked this video or found it useful in any way, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe and share with a friend. And with that, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.